Yo, when I spit bars in a rave, man, I go hard like Santan.
Yes, hello one and all. Good evening. Hi, how you doing? It's your boy SV Carbaholic. We're back. Yes, I'm back on hosting duties. Back with the weekly edition of TG TouchlineGunners. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Your favorite podcast. We're glad to have you all here with us. And yeah, another W for the Arsenal. Make that 10 wins in a row, 8 clean sheets in a row. Another stay at the W Hotel. That's in spite of us being in the midst of what we can classify now as an injury crisis. 7 attackers out. Zubimendi was suspended yesterday, but the boys still got it at the mud. We found another goal scorer. Merino turned the 6 upside down to a 9 and delivered a brace for us as we won 3-0 in Prague. So we're going to dissect all of that good stuff. And with me to talk all that good stuff, Arsenal, is my brother Shabs. How you doing, sir?
I'm all right, man. Still keeping clean sheets, bro.
Yeah,
I'm happy. I'm happy with the state of football right now.
Sometimes you got to enjoy it. Enjoy it while it is, because we know how quickly football can change. We know how these things can change. Actually, before we get onto that, yeah. So we will talk about the game, Shabs. But I guess you mentioned it, right? We're happy with how it is, yeah. How, for example, because we know at some point we're going to concede a goal. At some point we're going to lose a game. We're going to enter a bad patch. How do we navigate that? How, should we navigate that? Obviously our aim is to win as much as possible. We want to win the league, win the Champions League if possible. But, at some point we're going to encounter a sticky period. We haven't had it yet, and hopefully we don't have it. But we know how football works. We supported Arsenal long enough to know how these things work. So kind of how are you emotionally going to deal with, when we do encounter a bad period?
I'm all right, I've pre-accepted it. This form feels unsustainable. Not our performances. This form, as in
just the wins and the no goals conceded. Yeah.
It feels unsustainable. The data and the metrics probably indicate otherwise, but just watching the football, it feels unsustainable. And maybe that's because of wider contextual factors, maybe because of the injuries, maybe because of maybe there's other things at play. But it feels unsustainable. So I've kind of already accepted it. For me, the thing is, however we do deal with it, is another mark. It's another measure. It's another kind of determination as to are we really ready for this level and this accolade, or are there still some kind of chinks in the armor and we just managed to get off to a really good start, or that type of thing. I think it's the latter. I think this team has dealt with adversity. I think we've dealt with adversity currently this season in terms of the volume of injuries as well, to be honest with you. If you really deep it, defensively, we haven't, in our backline, we haven't really had a settled side all season. And in our front line, we haven't had a settled side all season, and then when Odegaard's been missing from our midfield for most of the season. So we've already experienced adversity in terms of like the squad context. It's just the results still have not gone against us. We found a way to make it work. So when it happens, I think it's an inevitability. I'm all right with it as long as we get back.
I think that's the point, is to get back on the horse quickly, right? Arsenal are going to concede. We're going to lose a game eventually. It's more about getting back on that horse once we've lost whatever, react quickly, because it's a case of, I think in previous seasons, sometimes when Arsenal have lost the game, we've then had like another game, then another game we've lost. And it's those sort of cluster defeats that have always affected us. And it's important to get back on the horse quickly. So you could even say maybe there are potential signs, because we lost the third game, right, against Liverpool, albeit obviously it wasn't really, it was just a wonder free kick that decided that game. But then we got back on the horse, right? I think we won a couple, and then we drew City, and then we've gone on a winning run since then. So yeah, I think it's a case of just bouncing back. You know, the best teams always bounce back straight away, and I think that's probably the best way for us to deal with adversity when it happens. Obviously, I think most of the injuries we've had, right, it's a cluster injury, right? It's the front line that are injured. Gyökeres, Havertz, Jesus, Martinelli, Ødegaard, Madueke. I feel like I'm missing someone, but yeah, maybe 6-7 guys out in the forward line basically that are out. Most of the defenders have been okay.
Yeah.
I think obviously Saliba's missed the odd game here or there.
Gab missed some games.
Yeah, Gabriel missed one.
Yeah.
He just missed one. But yeah, I think generally we've been okay. And to be fair, the back line's okay. Like, I'm quite easy with whoever's rotated in because we've got so many options defensively. So I'm not as worried. And obviously we've seen, I think Mosquera's probably played at least like 8 games already for us this season because of, you know, some of the injuries that have been picked up. So that's kind of good. And I think Arteta has done well with the rotation so far. And obviously even more so when you compound it with the injuries as well. We've managed to keep everyone involved, managed to give everyone game time. And I think that will be the challenge. Obviously, when everyone, hopefully touch wood, does become fully fit at some point, how Arteta will balance that, because it's kind of made it easy for him at the moment because there's been so many injuries. You know, you've some of the decisions have been made for you. But obviously when the forwards are fit, it's going to be interesting to see some of the key decisions that are made kind of around that. But anyway, I just wanted to quickly ask that question before we went into, you know, some of the main, you know, into part of the main pod properly. So let's talk about last night, right? So we've beaten Slavia Prague 3-0. That is our 4th Champions League victory. We're joint top with Bayern. We have played 4, 1-4, 11 goals scored, 0 conceded. And Arteta made, I believe, 4 changes from the team that beat Burnley at the weekend, right? So some of them were enforced, like obviously Gyökeres injured, so Merino came in up top. Zubimendi suspended, so Norgard in at 6. He chose to put Eze on the bench this game and rotate him. Ethan coming in for I believe, for his first Champions League start. And Calafiori was rotated out and Hincapié was rotated in. Did you have any initial thoughts on that? You know, because in the last, I believe, game we had at home to Atletico Madrid, when Calafiori was rotated out, it was Miles. But obviously Hincapié came in for his first Champions League start. He did start in the League Cup last week as well at home to Brighton, but this was his first start in the Champions League. So were there any thoughts you had on the initial lineup or any surprises?
I think the lineup was calm. You could look, there's always an argument for Miles Lewis-Skelly. Miles Lewis-Skelly was so good last season and we were so dependent on him actually. Sometimes as our, forget reliable, sometimes as our only available left back, really. So, you know, there's always an argument and that sentiment about maybe he should have played or maybe he should have even been used in midfield. That's probably the one that I was surprised about. I think if there's been a fixture and an opportunity to actually maybe just test him out in midfield, see him get some minutes in a different position, the pitch, I think that would have been the one to do it, given the opposition. Ultimately, you have to respect the quality of the opposition, but they haven't been on nothing in the Champions League for a very long time. So you kind of, you kind of accept it. But Hincapié at left back, I think is fine. We also need to see him. He arrived carrying a knock and an injury. He's not really, that's probably been a bit disruptive. We have the luxury of being able to ease him in to the team and in the squad and not kind of rush him. In years of the past, I could see this as a signing that we just would rush him in. Given that we've done him as a loan with an option that we can activate, and it really seems to be structured in that way for financial reasons. There's a bigger picture and a longer term plan at play for me for Hincapié. I think this is just the opportunity to give him minutes, really, and definitely rest Calafiori, who's been sensational this season. But also, you know, we also cannot forget or cannot ignore his own availability history with Arsenal. So the right thing was to rest him, and so I wasn't surprised. I wasn't really surprised, not with the back line. Maybe because Timber started, didn't he?
Yeah, I was maybe a bit surprised Ben White didn't start potentially, but
that's the other one. But ultimately, this is the Champions League. It's a very important win. Bayern lost didn't they? No, Bayern won.
No, they won. They beat
Bayern won.
PSG, so we're joint top. They are. Yeah, we're joint top. They're ahead. They've scored more goals. They've scored 3 more goals than us.
Yeah.
But I think we have similar. We have the same goal difference, but they scored 14 and conceded 3. We scored 11 and conceded none.
Yeah. So Bayern won as well. So then our next game in the Champions League is against Bayern.
It's against Bayern as well. So
that's going to be a bit of a shootout. So I understand it. Like, you know, if you expect Arsenal to win, but away with an early kickoff, it's a weird kickoff time here in Prague, Slavia Prague, isn't it? Yeah, it's a weird kickoff time in Czech. So you think, there could be a potential banana skin somewhere in the mixer. So I understand, like, you know, respecting the opponent, respecting the opposition, playing this game with integrity, not really taking much for granted. So I do understand, like, starting the game with the likes of Timber, Rice, etc., especially with Zubi out, so on and so on. But I think in the end, he got the right balance between resting players who maybe needed a bit of a break, thinking with one eye ahead to the Sunderland game on the weekend, and using the players who he had available. If he had a more available squad, we probably would have seen much more rotation. But you know, we've ended up with what we've ended up with. So ultimately, I think it was fine.
Yeah. So, okay. So obviously the game kicked off. We were probably a bit slow to get going. I'd say probably took maybe 15-20 minutes to work out. Slavia, they were quite, obviously we know there's a disparity in ability levels, but they were quite physical and aggressive. They were trying to go long, over the top. They were trying to capitalize on set pieces. They were trying to be quite rough and physical with us, which is funny considering, you know, as a team we're built well to deal with that sort of physical aspect. So I guess it was just a case of sort of absorbing what they had. They had a few half chances across the first 20 minutes, but then I think we started to settle in to our football, started to push them back a bit after 20-25 minutes, and we started to grow into the game. I think Saka had a few shots, worked the keeper a couple times as well. And then, you know, that sort of case of what we usually do, you know, when we start to suffocate, keep teams penned back, and then obviously that territory, either through crosses, shots, ends up leading to set pieces. And essentially that's what led to the first goal, right? Saka's whipped in a ball. I think we thought Gabriel got a head on it, but it sort of hit the head and hand of the Slavia Prague captain. Initially, obviously, a lot of us thought we were just going to get another corner, and then it transpired that VAR were looking. And then, you know, once the ref goes over to the monitor, more often than not, you know what's going to happen. So obviously it transpired. We got the penalty. Saka duly dispatched that really, really well, took the penalty well. And then that was it. Yeah, that was 1-0. So I think it came at a good point. We had started to build up a head of steam, and it was quite a hostile crowd, so it was good to silence them at the time that we did. So obviously we went into half time 1-0 up, and then I think second half, I think the dagger was really 45 seconds into the second half. Shabs, we've broken on them quickly. Rice out to Trossard. Lovely ball in. Merino, listen, whatever you want to say about him, and we're going to discuss him in a sec. That guy knows where the net is. He definitely knows where the net is for all the other flaws in his game. Seems when he's put in front of goal, he's one of the calmest finishers in the squad, and how he took that second goal was absolutely fantastic. And I think that was probably the dagger for Slavia. You're probably like, maybe hold it for 1-0 for as long as possible. But the fact the goal came 45 seconds into the second half, I think that sort of knocked any sort of wind out their sails. And then it was pretty much a case of cruise control for us from then. Could we maybe get a third? We did end up getting the third. It was Merino again. And then after that, once that third went in, Arteta started to ring the changes, which is kind of, I guess, what you want as well. So how did you assess, you know, the overall performance? We don't need to dwell on every sort of action, but how do you assess the overall performance, especially in light and context of some of the injuries that we have?
Yeah, I mean, again, overall as a team, it was a professional performance. That's what I'd call it. Uninspiring at times, at parts, very professional defensively. I think we had some good performers throughout the thirds, you know, but it didn't look as cohesive. But it's what I'd expect, given the rotation, given the changes. Had some players who I don't feel gave enough given the circumstances. Maybe we can go into a bit more detail on them a bit later. But yeah, generally speaking, as a team, it was a very professional performance. Once that first goal went in, really, it felt low stakes. Second goal early in the second half, again, just felt very low stakes, man. Low stakes. It felt like after that point, it's just cruise control. And we know as well, with the Swiss Army knife of a footballing side, the tactical side that we can play like any kind of different game model required. So yeah, we could just take the sting out, we could absorb, we could just kind of do, and not that we sat back either. I think there was still stuff to play for after 2-0, but yeah, it was just at 2-0, it never looked in threat after that. Not even a tiny bit.
Yeah. No, that's great, and I think overall it was a good professional win, a good professional performance. I think, you know, one context I always take in mind is, look, we're playing every 3 days and we keep losing body. So the fact you can continue to eke out wins when you're not at your best, you don't have all of the exact tools available. Like at the moment, we're missing all the pace in the front line. You know, a lot of the runners who can stretch, Martinelli, Gyökeres, Madueke, they're not available. Even Havertz, Jesus. So we're missing a lot of different profiles in that front line. So we're kind of stuck in terms of what we can do at the moment. So I think just to win by hook or by crook, especially in the Champions League away from home, is always difficult. So, you know, no one can turn their nose up at a good professional 3-0 performance. Let's look at some individuals then. Yeah, there's a couple I want to focus on. I will start with the match winner and the man of the match, Merino. So obviously Shabs, he came in up top yesterday, and he also had obviously that stretch up top last season after Jesus and Havertz had both gone down. And I think with Merino, yeah, I think he's very good at crashing the box. He seems to have a good sense of where to be. I think it says he scored 19 goals for club and country in 2025, which is very, very impressive, a very impressive return. Always seems to score for Spain during the international break as well. So you've got to very much praise him for that. But I find him so frustrating at times as well, because sometimes you know, if we're not dominating, you know, opposition backlines will push us up because they know he doesn't have the ability to run in behind. He's always going to look to drop and maybe spin something in behind, but he doesn't have the pace for it. And sometimes he can be a bit clunky with his touches, which is weird for like a Spaniard, isn't it? But I find him such a bit of an enigma because his overall play can be quite frustrating, similar to Trossard, you know, who are sometimes grouping this. And in terms of, they do a lot of annoying things, but the end product in the final third, you can't sniff your nose up. Trossard is another one you sort of put under that umbrella, right? Because they more often than not produce the goods despite other aspects of their play leaving a lot to be desired. So what do you want to say about Merino? And I guess you can group Trossard in here as well, because I think Trossard has actually been one of the ones who have stayed fit and as a result has ended up playing a lot. And he got the assist for Declan Rice against Burnley. Obviously got the assist for Merino's first goal yesterday as well. So thoughts?
So I don't know if you saw, obviously, just for context as well for listeners, on a match day, in the build up to the match day, the volume of messages just goes like tenfold. And then during the context of a game as well, like if you're out of a conversation in that chat for like a couple of minutes, very easy to miss like a few hundred messages in it. That group chat is going off. So I'm not sure, and you'll be forgiven for not seeing, but in the first half, somewhere in there were some conversations about performances and how we'd started and whatnot. And there were sentiments to the tune of Merino has had a nothing game. He's done absolutely nothing, blah, 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 blah. And I said, listen, I completely agreed with it, but I said, listen, he's going to score. He's going to score the next goal. I don't know if you saw that or caught that when I said it yesterday. It was early in the first half. I was like, this guy's going to score. And I was like, it seems to be the less involved he is in the game, the more he's actually going to score. Like, so it came to light. He ended up bagging 2, but it was very nothing in terms of his overall performance. I'm very surprised that he left with the Player of the Match award. My thing is, and similar to Trossard, I then likened it to a player like Noni Madueke, and I was talking along the lines of the difference with Noni is that on the pitch you will know that he's playing, and he'll be taking on his opponent and doing all of these things, that he'll be a live wire, but his output says he'll perform well, but he won't have the outputs. And so sometimes you can kind of downplay the performance or undervalue the performance. It depends on what you weight and what you prefer ultimately as a fan. So I was saying someone like Merino, someone like Trossard, the majority of the time, they're not going to have good performances, but they're going to leave with something. And that now you can overvalue that, so you can kind of overlook, they actually don't play well, but when it matters, they bag. Yeah. And that's the thing in it. It depends ultimately as a fan as to what you weight. Ultimately, the outputs are the most important for the team. The outputs are the most important in terms of us achieving our collective goals, our collective ambitions and targets for this season. But I'm a purist. I don't like it. However, I'll be foolish to sit here and say to you, it doesn't matter. It absolutely matters. Merino, the goals that Merino has scored have been absolutely important goals. They've been, decisive goals or game-breaking goals or, goals to just provide a bit of a cushion. Some of the assists and the outputs that Trossard has provided are very similar. And I don't just mean so far this season or even going back last season. I mean, in the entirety of his Arsenal career. So it's one of those things, isn't it? It's what you weight and what you attribute as more valuable. Ultimately, goals are the most valuable thing in football, so that has to trump it for me, but I also don't have to like it.
Well, like I said, to me, he's the Spanish McTominay, man. They've got similar variants, bro, in terms of they don't do a lot of great midfielding, but when that ball's in the box, bro, they're very much good for a goal. So it's a unique skill set to have. And even though, like you said, I'm not a major fan of it, it's a valuable skill set. Like you said, scoring a goal is the most important commodity. So we should never turn our noses at people who can put the ball in the back of the net, even if we have to stomach some of the other stuff that isn't as pretty. Let's talk about Christian Norgard, yeah, because he was another one. He joined, start of the season, he got an injury, wasn't really involved, but last few weeks he's been getting more and more minutes, coming off the bench. Obviously started the League Cup against Brighton, and then he started last night as well against Slavia because Zubimendi was obviously suspended. So how do you assess it? Like, put it this way, yeah, I wasn't, whenever I watched Brentford previously, I never looked at Brentford and, thought, oh, he stood out. You're always looking at like a Wissa and Buemo and maybe Damsgaard, those sorts of guys. So, but obviously he was Brentford's captain. And, we let Partey and Jorginho go at the same time. So it was a case of, I think Arteta maybe thought we still need some level of experience there. I thought we did okay last night without being overly spectacular. My kind of concern with Norgard is when I watch, I feel like, you have Zubimendi and Rice who are at a very high level, but then I think there's too much of a drop-off after that, to Merino and Norgard, who are the next two midfielders in line after those two. So I thought we did okay. And obviously he's very tenacious. He's quite good at getting across the ground, to be fair. But, when I think of the fact Jorginho was third choice or fourth choice last season, yeah. But what his value add could be, especially we know Jorginho, even though he couldn't run, the quality he offered on the ball, I don't really see that with Norgard. But maybe that's not what he's there for. He's just, we've heard about his leadership, his off the field value, and maybe I guess he's just really here to rest Zubimendi's legs every now and then. So I guess for a £10 million signing, I can't be too mad at it. But, you'd be worried if he potentially had to play a stretch of games if either Zubimendi or Rice would be injured, right?
Yeah, I agree. I can't remember the order. I can't remember the ordering of signings in this window. Not
He,
that that's
he, he, he
conclusively,
was he was quite early. He was quite early. I think he might have even been after Zubimendi. He was quite early, but
yeah,
obviously, yeah, because everyone knew everyone knew the whole year Zubimendi was happening.
yeah,
So it was always a kind of, and Jorginho was announced that he was leaving early, and then obviously
yeah,
once the party thing happened, we knew we
yeah.
needed another midfielder, right? So
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm going to. And what I was saying, I can't remember the ordering because I can't remember the ordering of the signing versus the ordering of the links. I think Lucien Agume might have been the one, but I think because there's a complex nature, like we heard after the summer that those links were genuine, but there was a complex nature to the way that he is owned. You know, there's still Inter Milan, there's still got their mitts on the player and whatnot. So as much as it would have been like a relatively low fee, like I think the arrangements and the structure is it's a bit going back to like the Edu signing, where Edu was owned by a bloody player and by intermediary rather than the actual club and that type of stuff, like all 20 years ago. So it feels like that. But I just think we know we needed a body in that area. We know that we fell short in that regard at times last season as well. So that's literally what I think he is. I think he's low down the pecking order. I think when you consider our full strength attackers return, so when we've got like a Havertz, Gyökeres, Martinelli, and maybe Jesus is back fit and in contention, you're probably going to see Merino utilized more in midfield. You've got Rice, who can cover the 6 and the 8, although we know how well he's done as an 8. And we've got Jorginho, you've got Zubimendi, who has demonstrated how much of a quality player he actually is. So I think if we have like more strength in numbers in terms of our attacking line, we probably would see and need to rely on Norgard less. All the same, I don't think it was bad yesterday. I just think it felt like an underwhelming performance. I don't think it was bad. It didn't feel amazing. His passing was okay. He did misplay some passes, but no one's put like we've got to move away from this analysis of players who are perfect passes. You know, I've seen some of the best passes in the world, misplaced passes. Like it's okay. Like we as fans need to get a grip. But just in terms of like some of the other things, I think he worked well, but it also didn't strike me as the highest of intensity in terms of games. In terms of like his duels, I think this is where I was kind of looking, all right, let's see him. He's played a couple more games in more recent weeks. Let's see him. Let's see how he competes. Let's say how combative he is. Bear in mind, he's more in your anchorman midfielder than he is your deep lying playmaker type of 6. So I thought, let's see how combative he is. And for me, that's where I was like, okay. It looks like he's getting spun here. It looks like he's losing out. He's losing these 50-50s. He's getting run past a couple of times where he lost his battles. And I thought, okay, that don't look good, but all right, we'll see. In the air as well, he didn't strike me as amazing. He didn't strike me as amazing in the air as well, considering he's come from Brentford. Seemingly, supposedly tall Dane. I maybe had a different perception of him. I can't say that I watched him massively at Brentford, but probably I had a different perception of him. And I feel like yesterday's performance, certainly it underwhelmed a little bit. So in that regard, but it's all right, man.
He's back up. Yeah, his job isn't to, so let's see. But I think it might be something we might have to revisit potentially next summer as well. It'd be nicer to have a high level rotation for me with Zubimendi and Rice, whether that's a new signing or maybe integrating someone like MLS amongst those two. That would be great for me. I think obviously you mentioned Agume. It's quite tough, I guess, for a young player because they want to play all the time in it. Whereas I guess it might be an easier sell to like an older experienced head who kind of know that they're back up. They're not going to demand to play every week. Whereas, you know, it's hard for like a 6 to come in like an Agume who starts every week for Sevilla, and he probably wouldn't for Arsenal. So would that stunt his development? You know, we all saw how, you know, someone like Lokonga probably needed to play all the time, and that wasn't going to happen at Arsenal. So it's kind of a catch-22 sometimes with those things as well, right? So yeah. So I guess we'll wait and see. All right. This weekend, yeah. So we go to Sunderland, high-flying Sunderland. They've done really, really well since they've got back. I mean, they did spend nearly 200 mil in the summer for a promoted club. So they were very, very aggressive in the transfer window. I think they bought like 15 sort of new players, which is mad in itself. But I think they've given themselves the best chance to stay up. They've started well. They've had some really high profile results, including the win at Stamford Bridge last weekend. And obviously they drew at home with Everton this week as well. So they're doing really, really well. Known for having quite a vocal fan base, a lot of support up in the Northeast. And it's complicated also by the fact, Shabs, that we have a lot of injuries. This will also be our third away game in 7 days. So obviously we had Burnley, now we've had Slavia, and now we've got, you know, that all eyes on me slot on Saturday evening against Sunderland. It's very easy to see how this could be a potential banana skin, right? So for me, kind of like how things have gone and what I'm seeing, I'm kind of like, I'm going to take any sort of win I can take and get out of there because it's one of those, you know, historically, like, you know, when Arsenal go to like maybe the North, have those games where, you know, how much do we want it? Are we going to get stuck on us? You know, but I'm just hopeful. I just need these guys to give us one last push in this block, get us over the line, and then it's internationals. And then I'm hoping, obviously, after the internationals, we have loads of players back, loads and loads of players. Well, that's what we're sold anyway, that, you know, we're told Havertz, Madueke, Odegaard are not far away. So we got told they might be back. You know, first game back after the international break is North London derby. Gyökeres, Martinelli, we've been told is not long term, that they should be back after the break. So, you know, potentially we might recover 5 players after the international break. So for me, or for you, is it just a case of just getting over the line in this game and just trying to just get in the win by any means necessary, considering it's our third away game in 7 days?
Absolutely. I don't think we're down that bad. However, I think absolutely. I think these are the, you know, banana skins in the making. You know, last fixture before international break, it's always a bit twitchy off the back of an international break. There's always an argument about things being a bit twitchy off the back of a European away game. It's not the furthest distance, to be honest with you, but still, it messes up. It changes your preparation, isn't it? So there's always that. And then the injury pile up, the rotation, the players that have gone out, the players that might be fighting fit to be available. So yeah, we feel a bit short given the volume of players. And I know people are saying, well, you can't really complain. It's not an excuse. I'm not making any excuses here, and I'm expecting us to win. However, there is a context, and we can't ignore. Just because we do have a more able squad now, it doesn't mean that we can't cite the issues that come with, you know, being part of a squad throughout the, you know, the rigors of the season is what I'm trying to say. We can't ignore and downplay the rigors of a season. It matters. It's important. So yeah, I think we have to just be professional, hang on there, do like as professional a job as we need to do. That's what I'm hoping for, and get the 3 points, get the international break. I hope that some of our players are smart in this international break. I'm not gonna say it, but I know.
Say names, brother. You know what you want. You know what you want to say.
I know real ones know what I'm talking about. I know you real listeners. I know you real Arsenal fans. I know you top red know what I'm talking about. I hope some of our players are smart. Yeah, be smart. Do the right thing. Do the right thing, innit? Like, then once there, the nation's already qualified for what and what. Be smart, man. Be smart. Think about it. You're on the plane in the summer. It doesn't matter, bro. You're gonna be there next summer. It doesn't matter. May, June. You know your ticket is booked, bro. That's it. You're planning extracurricular activities for your family whilst you're out there. Come on,
saying
bro.
The Airbnb is ready, isn't it?
The Airbnb is ready, bro. Like that's it. They already know. Like where's it? It's the States. It's gonna be like Roscoe's chicken and waffles,
bro.
That's it. All the IHOP,
Taco Bell is waiting for you, bro.
Taco Bell, that's it, man. All the bougie spots are well, I say bougie. All the spots are there lined up for the friends and family already. So these men know that they're going. So yeah, don't put yourself under duress and the ring or the title, I should say, in jeopardy. Don't put the champions. Don't put the bigger picture in jeopardy.
For real. Yeah. And obviously we know Jacques has probably been one of the signings of the season. Seems to be they're loving him up there in the Northeast. He's done really, really well for them. So that will be tough. I don't think, based on the injuries, I don't think there's too much that will change. I think obviously Merino will continue up top. I'd probably say Eze will come in for Ethan. Obviously Zubimendi will come back in after his suspension. And I think Calafiori comes in at left back. So we've got about 3 changes, but I think everything else will stay the same potentially. So let's see, man. Let's get the dub by any means necessary. All right, before we head off, let's do some listeners' questions. So we have Rajang at JNuga95 says, other than Merino up top, are there any other options you would try if none of our attackers are back fully fit for those 3 games? What 3 games? I'm assuming, is he talking about after the international break with because we've got Spurs, Bayern and Chelsea straight after the international break. So I'm assuming that's what he's referencing by those 3 games. I think the only other one I would like to see is potentially Trossard false 9, but God, I can't lie to you, bro. I can't even contemplate going into that period of 3 games without any of the forwards back. Brother, we have 6-7 forwards out. We cannot play those 3 games with Merino or Trossard up top. I'm sorry. It just can't happen, man. I need at least 3 attackers back by that. At least. We're entering another period. I think we've done well to manage, but it's actually ridiculous how big the squad is. And yet it looks like we have no depth at the moment because of these injuries. So, like, it's unheard of to have like 6-7 attackers out. So I need at least 3 back. At least 3. I need 3, man. So I can't answer your question, my guy. I'm sorry, because I can't countenance Merino or Trossard for those 3 games against Spurs, Bayern and Chelsea. That is tough. You need to be ready. So I'm hoping Arteta's got these men in the hyperbolic time chamber. You know when was it Goku and Vegeta? I used to listen. They were training there for the whole year, bro. That's what we need. I'm hoping secretly some of these men, you know when it's a case of some of these men might be close to a comeback, but we just don't want to tell their international managers, innit? That's I hope they're in the hyperbolic time chamber, boy. So,
well, I thought you was talking more about the recuperation tank, bro. That's what that when Goku was on Namek and that, he fought the Ginyu squad.
Hey, bro,
and he had to go in the tank after that, bro.
Fam, whatever it is, bro. I need man ready. I need man ready. That's what our
players need, man. Recuperation chamber, bro. Not the recuperation tank, not hyperbolic time chamber, bro.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't need them doing more training, bro.
Yeah, that's true. Do you know what? You're right, bro. They're done enough training, bro. That's how more injuries will load, bro. Get them in the recuperation tank, bro.
Yeah. Not the way that Arteta and Gabriel Heinz are carrying on, bro. Listen, it's no coincidence, that this defensive record, like coincides and arrives at a time where Gabriel Heinz is in the I've seen Saka look at him, in training videos, say, all right, man.
Calm down, bro. Calm down, my guy.
Chill out, bro.
Bro. This guy moving like he runs a military operation, innit? I know.
Moving so
relax, bro. The season is a marathon, not a sprint, bro. We need Mandem fit, bro. We need Mandem fit.
Exactly.
So let's see. But hopefully we have, even if we've got like 6-7 attackers out. I need a good 3. We need half of them back, man. Half of them back for sure. Just to give us options, to give us more flexibility in that front line. Allows us to do a few different things. All right, so G Theorem Family Man says, is anyone else concerned that Ethan, the midfielder, really ain't it? Granted, he hasn't had many opportunities. So how long are you giving him to show that he has what it takes to excel in this position? I'm giving him a long time, my guy. He just signed a new 5-year deal and he's 18 years old, bro. Now, don't get me wrong. I thought he stunk out the gaff yesterday. I didn't think he was good at all. And I think he has some work to do, both in terms of how aggressive and intense he is out of possession, which I think he needs to improve on. And also, I think sometimes showing for the ball and being switched on a bit more. And, you know, the passing back. Me and German spoke about it last year, that if he's going to be an interior for us, there needs to be a bit more incisiveness with his passing. So, but it's a hard role to master. You know, there aren't a lot of 18-year-olds leading it for Champions League or title-winning clubs, title challenging clubs, doing that. So I think we have to have patience. But at the same time, what the kid showed you last season was that there is a bag of talent there. It needs refining. It needs some more work done. And so it'd be a case of picking his moments. That's why I think it's good that if we can stay in as many tournaments as long as possible. So, you know, if he gets he started a League Cup against Brighton. He started the League Cup round before against Port Vale. When the FA Cup round starts, maybe gets the early rounds there, you know, Shabs, just to keep him ticking over and then being a sub in certain games as well. So I've got no problem with the utilization of him at the moment. But for sure, he has to improve. And I'm sure he will. Like I said, we just need to have some grace with him at the moment. So
yeah, and I'll just to add to that, I agree. I think we've got a problem at Arsenal, and I think the problem is genuinely because of how some of these players have performed, especially these young players. I think it warps the expectation a little bit. So I think the level of maturity and consistency of Miles Lewis-Skelly last season is a contributor of that. The level of like even when he did play last season was very helpful. And he was very important, and he scored goals. He scored goals in the Champions League. He scored goals in the league. It was during a period where actually we wouldn't have had very much going if it weren't for him. We wouldn't have had very much going because we were just there were moments and times where we were dire or we just didn't look like scoring. So he offered goal threat in some regard. So I think that's a thing. But also there's a weight of expectation that's been placed on him because we've been knowing about him since he was 15, very similar to Max Dowman. And so we've been kind of like, oh, yeah, Ethan is a star boy. Ethan's a star boy. Ethan's a star boy. And he is. And then I think the other thing that warps the perception is the fact that we have Max Dowman, literally a 15-year-old year 11 school kid who's, you know, off in bench in UCL games now, you know, making history as the youngest ever UCL player. This is the biggest stage of football, in my opinion. Definitely European football is the biggest stage. So if you've got really like it's not even signed his first pro yet. You know what I mean? Like not even signed his scholar yet. He's a school kid. So like really, you've got players like that really making waves and coming on and influencing games and deciding games and just showing flashes of brilliance and flashes of quality. So it definitely warps the perception. The other thing with Ethan is I'm critical about how sporadically he's been utilized. So we don't know how he is really as a player. We don't know in terms of like he might not be that player who you can just drop in. I always talk about this. He might not be that guy who you can just drop into a game and just expect outputs from him. He might be more of a rhythmic player, and he needs a combination of games. And you know, he needs a run of games in order for you to fully see his best. And I think it's really difficult for him having this. I think it's difficult for him, the way that I've analysed him and watched him, having this kind of rotational role where even sometimes where he could be used, he's not used. And we've had big, serious bushes about it as well. You in the group chat talking about, well, there's greater opportunities for him to have been used. Some people disagree. Some people think he's being used just fine. I disagree. But yeah, I think that plays a part as well. So I think people should sleep on Ethan at their own peril. But I think everything we've seen about him means that he has the makings of a top quality player. And as well, people assume that everyone's pathway and progression is linear. And that, he's 18 now. So really, because of what Miles was doing last year when he was 18, Ethan has to be doing it, blah, 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 blah. Ethan might not hit the biggest breaks until he's 21, until he's 22, until he's 23. Like it doesn't mean that he won't go on and still have like a top career. So yeah, you said it. He signed a long-term deal. I'm calm in that. I just think that we have a responsibility to him to ensure that we are aiding his development as best as possible, and that means, I think, better all-round utilization of him and optimizing the positions and the roles that we ask him to fulfill. I think he would have fulfilled a different role yesterday had we had some other players available.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's finish with a couple more. Baitface Nate says there's a lot of Xhaka revisionism under TL this week. Where do the panel stand on his time at Arsenal, and where would you rank him amongst all-time Arsenal midfielders? So I think we had a lot of the best and the worst version of Xhaka. Maybe the early seasons especially, we got some of the worst versions of him. Maybe also not necessarily through himself, because structurally, I think sometimes Wenger used to hang him out to dry, and that wasn't always for the best of him. Obviously, he didn't get on great with Emery. It was really Arteta who started to utilise him in the best version. And obviously over time, he's just more, the last maybe season and a half, 2 seasons at Arsenal were good for him. And you could also just put that down to maturity as well, because Leverkusen have got a super mature version of Xhaka, and he's, and it seems like he's carried on that as he's got older. He's not really a midfielder we know that's ever going to be reliant on pace and athleticism, and that's where sometimes he can struggle if you press him or if he's got to get into long distance running. So it's really just a case of utilising his skill set to the best possible ability, and I think Arteta did that towards the end, and I think Xabi Alonso really, really did that well with him at Leverkusen. So I think, as someone who was heavily critical of him when he was here, I've had more of an appreciation for Xhaka over time, even though I still stand by the fact that I wanted him upgraded. I just think how we chose to do it is where I would have questioned how we did it, because I still valued his skill set. I think he's a fantastic passer of the ball, both short and long, breaks lines really well. My criticisms of him were always more around the mobility side of things as well. But I think he's done well, man. I think he's done well. I think he's matured well over time. I would not be putting him amongst any of the all-timers, though. I don't know why we need to do that. So he's a good midfielder. That's what I'm going to say. He's a good midfielder. He's a good midfielder. The all-time stuff is crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, I agree with you. And this is where it's funny. It's a good question. It's very similar to what I was saying about Ethan. Really, players mature, and you always have to consider the contextual factors. And I didn't appreciate the player or his skill sets at the time we signed him, and maybe that was more about what he was surrounded with, or he was surrounded by, what the team setup was. But undoubtedly, Arteta got the very best out of him, and that is capped by it was his penultimate season, wasn't it, at Arsenal? It wasn't his final season, but it was his penultimate season. Or maybe it was his final season. I can't even remember now, where he scored the 7 league goals, and he's getting like 11 goals in all comps, and he was just doing like all action midfielding, really, like receiving the ball, dropping in at left centre back and receiving the ball, and fluidity and interplay with Zinchenko. And it was a time where we weren't really having these conversations about progression into the final third, and he was getting the ball into Ødegaard and stuff was happening. We weren't seeing Ødegaard doing this stupid dropping into this situational pivot to pick up the ball because no one could get the ball to him type of thing. So in his final seasons at Arsenal, he was very, very, very good. Completely agree with you. But yeah, if we have to start naming our all-time midfielders, come on, man, don't be stupid here. If I slap,
yeah,
we don't. Yeah,
it's just
not you, not the listener.
Down, man.
Yeah, we if we have to, not is it Baitface Nate? Is Nate that?
Yeah.
We got Nate, but yeah, if we have to, come on, man. Come on, man. That's.
We don't even need to do it. We don't need to do it.
Yeah, it's not a question.
Yeah. All right. Okay. And last one for today, Francis and Yanmi says that Merino first goal on Tuesday is the kind of goal Gunners have been crying for Gyökeres to at least try to score. Question: is there a world where Gyökeres can have the tech to score similar goals, or is it something we might see in a season or two after coaching? I'll caveat this by saying, yeah, I think before his injury, I thought Gyökeres was having his best game for Arsenal at the weekend. Like, we've spoken a lot about his overall game not being clean, but he brought Saka in, he set up Saka a couple of times. Obviously, he scored his own goal. He was, doing well just overall generally. And to be fair, I actually think if he was available, he probably scores last night as well. I think there was, as the game went on, like, let's not even lie, like, normally, like, look at the Merino goal. There was no one in the box, bro. Like, he had acres of space around him. Generally, that space is not there. And we know from the tapes and a lot of the stuff we watched of Gyökeres, he thrives in space. So I think there was opportunity for him to get goals last night if he was available. So I don't know. I think if he was fit, I think he would have scored last night. So I don't think it's a case of, even though Merino himself is quite good in the box, but I think his skill set is very, very different. And Merino is not someone that thrives in space because he's not got the athleticism to get away from people or to run into space. So I think it's a bit of a weird one to answer. I think we still, while I've been a bit underwhelmed by Gyökeres, obviously we still got to see have him over a stretch of times. He's played the best part of 15 games for Arsenal. We need to see maybe another 15 games. I think after 30 games you can make. I mean, don't get me wrong. I've made my assertions on him already, but I think to be fair, you need to give him maybe another 15 as well. So that's kind of where I am with Gyökeres, even though I have my doubts. So yeah.
Yeah, let's just let time tell, innit? I don't even know what side of history I want to be on with the debate. So let's just let time tell, man. Let time tell. But just what I thought I knew about strikers, every time, like, I've just been proven wrong, man. And yeah, strikers just need to score goals, man. They just need to score goals, just sharpen performance, bad goals. That's ultimately what I'm going to judge you on. That's what you're going to be judged on. That's what you get paid to do.
Yeah.
All that other stuff's cute, but score goals, man.
I hear you, brother. All right, let's leave it there. Shabs, thank you very much for joining me. Listeners, thank you very much for joining us. We are really in the thick of it. Obviously, it will quieten down a bit after this weekend. We play Sunderland away. We'll be back with a post-match after that, and then we'll see what happens over the international break and how things transpire. If news is thin on the ground, we might come up with a few Patreon ideas, or if you've got any Patreon ideas, let us know. I know people like the TG quiz in the last international break as well. So yeah, we might be back with something similar. So Shabs, thank you very much for joining me. Listeners, thank you. We will catch you on the flip side. Peace.
Yo, when I spit bars in a rave, man, I go hard like Santan.